Look within. Look within. Look within. And live your life. And live your life on the edge of two worlds. A reality where you find true understanding of who you are. Take the step into the unknown with Alexander McCaig and Jason Rigby as they explore the thinly veiled world of consciousness, spirit, and the human condition. Join them in embodying the oneness of all. Walk the cliff's edge between the seen and the unseen realities. Welcome to High Density Living.
Alex.
Jason.
You're high on what? What do you're like way too energetic.
I'm high on Essentia high pH water right now.
Yeah, you've had like, that was like a large quart.
Yeah. Yeah, it went into me and out of me real quick.
Your blood's at like a 9.9 pH. Right?
It is, dude, it's like oil slick right now. It's so slippery.
And then I have a yerba mate, sparkling cranberry, and pomegranate.
Courtesy of
Whole
Foods?
Yes, courtesy of...
Who needs to drop...
Smith's, actually.
Oh, good, because Whole Foods needs to drop their price. They want people to eat organic. Don't be so damn expensive. You price all the people that really need the organic stuff out of the market.
Yeah, they're completely out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so sad. We had a whole 2 podcasts on eating.
Yes, we did.
So let's get into our sponsors real quick.
Ooh.
We get into love.
Who's our... Love. Jason, we have 2 sponsors today. Who's our first sponsor?
Our first sponsor is Turtle.
Ooh.
Cool. I'm mixing it up, ain't I?
Oh, I like that.
If you would like to sell your data, or maybe you're a company listening and you would like to purchase data.
Nice.
And if you're a company and you're listening and you want to purchase data, how would you do that, Alex?
You're going to go to tartle.co and you're going to hit the buyer sign up button. It's a big green button, right? Anything you ever wanted to know to figure out what your demand was for your product or your market or the people that buy your stuff, or you want to know about them, or you're doing medical research, all these things are now possible because you get the information directly from the people in an ethical, moral format, right? And it's totally anonymous and completely encrypted.
And whether you're in South America or Belgium or Korea,
doesn't matter.
Does not matter.
Does not matter. Everyone's allowed in. It's totally open, completely horizontal playing field for everybody to jump in. We all start even out of the gate. Tartle.co, Tartle, free to sign up.
And that's for literally everyone.
Everybody. Everywhere. And I think, we also have one more sponsor, Rigby Digital.
Yes.
Great company.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. They do small to medium-sized businesses for their online SEO, getting web pages made. The web pages are absolutely gorgeous. Any specific type of advertisements.
Almost as gorgeous as you,
yeah, stop that. Snapchat, Instagram, any of those ads, all those things are completely possible. Huge amount of payback, massive amounts of value that the clients receive. Rigby Digital.
Yes, I love it. RigbyDigital.com. And then I also want to talk about real quickly, if you don't mind, our last podcast. What was the De Mello hammers?
We dropped him some De Mello hammers, right?
Explain the book. Let's go in case somebody didn't hear the first.
Yeah, so if you
need to go back and listen.
Yeah, you are highly encouraged to go back and listen to the first part of the episode from last week. Okay, De Mello was a Jesuit priest. Okay, went kind of feral, found himself on a spiritual journey all the way out in the Himalayas, northern India, right? Hung out with a bunch of gurus. His whole perspective on life changed. He removed the dogmas of what he found in religion, and he found the higher truth, right? Within his own human spirit, the things that were in his control. And these are the things he preaches, right? And when I say preach, he speaks a higher form of truth to the people that are willing to listen, that are willing to challenge the ideas of what they do in their daily life and how they view that world, right? And he doesn't tell them to act differently. He just gives them the tools and everything that they need to act differently in a brash, very truthful, straightforward manner.
Yes, and very practical.
And some of the hammers we talked about were going through life's journey, right? If you're on a bus, all the shades are down. You're not worried about all the stuff that happens in between. You're worried about who's going to get the seat at the front, who gets to get off first, and the end destination. But everything's missed in between.
And the beauty outside.
And the beauty outside.
It's amazing. You talked about your trip in Scotland.
Scotland, all that other stuff, right? Because you're not living in the now at that moment, right? You're only worried about what's in the future. And you're always clawing. And what we talked about in the other episode was that you're always clawing for that material world to have that define you and who you are and how people see you. Only to find that those things are not the things that last, right? Those are the temporal, right? Those are the impermanent things that we have and define our lives and our perspective and our programming of how we view this world. So go ahead.
Oh no, sorry.
I was
Were you done?
Yeah.
I was getting ready. I thought you were like done. You were like, so I was like,
Sorry, my lungs were about half empty.
So I was on page 20, and I thought we'd just pick up the book and start on the next chapter. And then I was like, oh, I'm interrupting.
No, that's cool.
So I was trying to be considerate.
No, interrupt. It's fine.
Your place in the neck of the woods.
Yeah.
I'm from Seattle, and everybody's like super patient and just.
There's no patience.
Everybody smokes weed up there. So,
yeah. New England?
My Seattle, Portland.
New England, there's no patience for anything.
I love going to like an old tavern.
Oh, yeah.
And then just listen to everybody talk over themselves.
Oh,
and then how louder it gets with the amount of beers.
It just increases in volume over time. And then we're all screaming. Everybody's deaf and no one can hear anything. And then it's just a bunch of drunk people yelling.
Then you go into Seattle and everybody's just like calm, chilling, just talking about.
There's a piano in the background.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Everybody's got North Face on.
Yeah, that's quaint. Yeah.
Just high on.
Isn't it nice outside?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's that person over there. Why are you getting loud? That's kind of concerning.
Yeah, that's strange, right? So, you know what's funny in New England? You don't hear how people like they drive over the line, like at an intersection,
yeah,
and they back up. You know, they back up to be courteous because they're like on the crosswalk or something. In New England, no one gives a fuck. You could be halfway in the intersection. They're not even going to move. They're like, deal with it. You know what I mean?
Hit me.
Yeah, hit me. I'll sue you. You know? They don't care.
Oh, that's funny.
It's funny when I moved here, I'm like watching people back up. Like when they get to like areas where you have to stop. And I'm like, what's everybody doing?
Well, that's what's funny too, is because everybody that comes to Albuquerque, we're in New Mexico here, Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the high desert.
High desert.
Beautiful. Absolutely amazing. If you've never gone to Albuquerque, New Mexico,
you need to go.
You need to go. You're going to be the food, the people, the atmosphere.
It's the unsung jewel of the United States.
I agree 100% with you.
Yeah.
On that.
It's also the fourth largest state in the United States. I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that. For land?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I didn't even think about that.
I had no idea. Yeah, that's wild.
Crazy, yeah. Let's get into the book, since we only did like 20 pages last time.
Yeah. Folks, get a nice cup of tea on, sit back, throw the headphones on, kick everybody out, lock the door.
Because you're going to get... It's hammer time.
It's hammer time to settle in.
Because Mr. De Mello is going to hit you emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah. And it's going to be brought to you by Rigby Digital.
Rigby Digital. Coming here live.
From 99.9 The Beat. Oh, by the way, thank you to 99.9 The Beat, 501c3 nonprofit here in New Mexico, nationwide radio station. This would not be possible without the help and supervision, frankly, because we're like children in here, of this entire area, and having Byron, who's the kind of head chief.
You know what's so funny?
Go ahead.
I just thought of this.
Yeah.
I got to interrupt you at this one. Think about this. This is so cool. This is what I love. So the Padrells have been here since the 50s, and they owned a barbecue place.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. I love this.
Barbecue, and he's loving our Higher Density Living podcast.
Yeah, he's like,
it's like amazing. They own a barbecue meat restaurant, and our podcast, like, where we just did stuff on cows and being vegan or plant-based
diet, all that stuff.
and he's like one of our biggest supporters.
He's one of our biggest supporters.
And he's helped us out more than.
Like a man of non-judgment, just phenomenal, and totally open to let the polar opposite of how he sees the world come in here and operate with him.
And I love that. And that's how it should be.
So it should be. Oh, yeah. You know what else is cool? He's black.
Yes.
That's the best part.
That's the best part.
You know what I mean?
Everybody considers like we're like the whitest of the white.
We're so white,
Higher density living.
And we got two like plant-based, one vegan, one plant-based, sitting here at 99.9 The Beat, old school hip-hop and R&B. Oh, yes. I friggin' love it, man. Just like talk about breaking down barriers.
With ribs. In fact, he had you, he had you smell this whole big...
Huge piece of meat.
Yeah.
I'm like, Byron, that looked... I kept it nice. Amazing, I kept a distance, but I'm like, it looks nice.
So the Eye of the Needle.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to refocus ourselves?
Yes. That was cool, though. Thanks for bringing... Mark 10:25 in the Bible says this is your book.
Take it easy with the pulpit. Your whole energy changes when you start reading that.
Go back to my
dude. Your programming kicked in so hard. Oh my god.
Mark 10.
Oh man, I'm sweating. It's like a leather-bound Bible just came out of nowhere.
Oh, I do have. I showed you one.
Oh,
I was so excited.
I'm dressed up in my
like a Schuler Bible.
Sunday best over here for Jason.
Mark 10:25.
Holy shit!
That's what Jesus said.
Okay.
It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God.
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah, what's impossible is what he's saying.
Yeah.
This is where I want you to tee off on this one, because this is so important. What can one do to attain happiness? There's nothing you or anyone else can do. Why? For the simple reason that you are already happy right now. This is like, we talked about paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
We were joking about all these buzzwords, business buzzwords.
You just said tee me off. I'm terrible at golf.
But think about this. 100% inside of you is pure happiness.
Everything.
So the only reason you're not happy is...
You've locked it away. You've took your rusty ass key, right? You shoved it in your belly button, because I'm assuming that's where your lock would be. Okay.
What chakra is that one?
That's I guess that's right between your orange and your yellow chakra, right? I don't know. We're getting that's something else.
Be,
yeah, that's where your lock would be. But the point is, you have all this happiness inside of you, right? But because you bury it away and you put all these other things in place of it, you can't seem to find it. You feel like, I got to get this happiness from somewhere else, but all of it's right there. But you got to scrape away all the shit that you've accumulated that wasn't you, right? To then bring back that thing that you've had locked up, brush the dust off, unlock that happiness, find that childlike innocence. I think about this all the time when I'm walking around outside or I'm on a trail. I do everything I can to reflect back on the days when I had that childlike innocence, that feeling. And it's brief, right? It's almost like the scent of a rose, it just like slowly comes across your nose and then it drifts away.
Right.
That's what it feels like, that feeling. And what I want to do is that's something I want to focus on holding for a longer period of time, because that's the best way to view the world, is through that innocence, because that is unadulterated joy, right? None of the what people would describe as the maturity or how you should look at the world or the programming is there. That's looking at the world without that programming. It's that creativity, right? It's the spirit of who you are. It's that ability to be happy in that moment. And I do everything I can to focus on that little bit of innocence. And I try and reflect back on those days, because they're important days. And we should be more like children.
We should, yeah.
Right?
That's when we're at our highest creative state.
That is when we're at our highest creative state. Now we're being told how the world works, or we should do certain thing a certain way.
Were completely programmed.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I just feel like this next step that he takes us on is a huge step. And I feel like this is going to be the rest of the podcast.
Okay.
But
I got big legs.
He takes us on this pinnacle, like the spirally that we were talking about earlier. Pulpit.
Yeah, the pulpit. By the way, everything in the universe spins, even the pulpit.
Even the pulpit. Yep.
Everything spins.
He says there is one thing and only one thing that causes unhappiness. There's only one thing. Just one. He says the name of that thing. Here we go. Is attachment.
Yeah. Attach. Attach. Now, let's look at that word. To attach something means you have to have two things that are separate.
Right.
Okay. So we gotta bring them together. So how does he describe attachment? Right. He says an emotional state of clinging. Right. Because like I said, it's two separate things that we're trying to bring together.
Right.
All right. An emotional state of clinging caused by the belief that without some particular thing or some person, you cannot be happy, right? So it's this emotional state of clinging, right? It's like, without that, I cannot be my best self. People are like, that person's they're having their best self right now. They're having their best day. They're having their best life. Well, how do you get to that point? It's because they are in that moment. They're not taking that external thing and bringing it to them to create some sort of false happiness. What they're doing is they're removing that and finding the happiness with themselves in the environment that they're in as it is, without perceived judgment, right? They rid of that distortion. Think of an attachment as like a parasite. It's just like limbering on you. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to walk into a pond and like you come out with the, what are those slug looking things called? Why can't I remember their name? leech. You want to
leeches.
yeah,
they use those in medical practices.
Yeah, for bloodletting, right? Back in the day. But you don't want to have the leech on you, right? You don't want to have this thing that's sucking your energy out of you. When you thought bringing this external thing closer was going to bring you that happiness, and then having that define who you were, combining with it, what it was doing was just truly leeching off that energy of who you are and what you were doing in this moment and the beauty of that, right? It's actually sucking that away. And that attachment, that leech, it has a shorter lifespan. So it's going to go away, and then what are you left with? Oh my God, I had the one thing that was defining me is no longer here. I'm completely unhappy. I'm no longer who I thought I was. I'm just in this total state. I'm a wreck. Has anything like that ever happened to you? Yeah, have you ever, what are you attached to? I want to talk about what I'm attached to. Go ahead.
Well, let's talk about attachments because I think that'll be good. But I was thinking of an analogy like this. Have you ever seen? Because you know me, I like to keep it at the lowest level. Have you ever seen that action movies where, like, the hero is because it's a hero's journey, and we need to do a whole podcast on that.
Yes.
And we're going to
write that down.
Yes. But like the action hero is hanging on the car, like on the hood of the car.
Yeah.
And somebody else is driving the car.
Love that.
And he's just trying to hang on. And he gets on the side of the car. He's on the front. He flips back up.
He's on the roof, and he's like gripping it, you know?
And I feel like that is attachment.
Oh, can you break that down? Can you break that down for me?
Because is he in control?
No.
He's barely in control. It's an illusion of control because somebody else is driving the vehicle.
Somebody else
is barely hanging on.
That is a phenomenal analogy, right?
Well, it's my simple brain. Yeah.
No, but that works, right? So somebody else is behind the steering wheel.
Right.
So rather than you being in your own car chasing this person under your own control,
right.
You choose to be on their vehicle, going at their pace.
In this state of fear, anxiety, worry.
All those other things.
With no control.
Rather than being in your comfortable Subaru with all your side airbags and stuff, seatbelt on, driving away, all-wheel drive, you're on a loaded out, IED silver Hyundai from the Middle East.
I love that. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Datsun, yeah.
Yeah, like a Datsun. Yeah. But that's what it is. And so you're in that state of fear. You've left the comfort of who you are and that environment that makes you you, right? That where you're making the decision rather than having some other attachment make the decision for you.
Just because you drive a Subaru, bro.
What?
But no, Subaru needs to buy data from Tartle.com.
You bet they do. Yeah.
There's a lot of data there.
There's a lot of good answers. Actually, the only answers you're ever going to need come from source data, and there's only one place to find it.
Let's use an example, but we're going to digress real quick, guys, because I think this is so important with Tartle. So Subaru wants to find an answer. And everybody knows Subaru has a niche buyer, like we can make
go ahead, point at me.
Super liberal, REI, Whole Foods,
granola. Yeah, you look like you're dirty, but you have an American Express.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
no deodorant.
Yeah, no deodorant by choice.
Yeah, buy is a keyword.
Yeah. A very distinct group of people.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And you drive a Subaru.
I do, and I love it.
So there would be literally Subaru could go to those people directly and ask them questions about what they like and don't like about their Subaru.
Yeah, no in between. Just exactly what they like, what they hate, and guess what? Don't make 40 different models to get to a rendition that maybe worked.
Right.
Go directly to the people that drive the damn thing and pay them for that information.
Yeah, I was making fun of your key fob. Your Subaru key fob earlier, that it's still like an old school key.
And then we turn it around.
Talking about, that you prefer that and like that because it's kind of mechanical and...
No, it feels good because you want something, it's trusty.
Yes.
Always works.
Right.
Subarus are reliable.
Right.
So if you give me a digital fob and the battery runs out, screwed.
Too complicated.
I'm in the middle of nowhere.
It looks like a Lamborghini key fob.
You know the Porsche ones? Actually, it looks like a Porsche.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah, it is cool.
So when we look at attachment, what does attachment mean to me?
What are you attached to?
Let me be honest here.
I think we got to get into this. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm attached to how people perceive me.
You're a loser. You're a loser, dude.
I'm a loser. I really want people to perceive me as relevant.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably number one.
Oh, man, I feel like I could just run on. That's a whole podcast right there. That's a week's worth of work.
So I would, I want, maybe it's the digital marketing thing. Maybe it's me, me really have been working on myself.
That's an expression.
Really young expression, but I want to be, the music that I listen to is very young. Everything I do is not necessarily that I'm fighting my age per se, because I don't wish I was. I enjoy my age.
Right.
But I want to be relevant in this world. I have a desire for people to perceive me as being like, oh, wow, he's 46, but, he looks like he's 22 or 23 or 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
And he knows so much about, and that part I haven't figured out. I know there's some good to that, but there's also this other ego part.
Can I ask
yes,
why then?
Hit me up on this, yeah.
Jason, why do you feel like you need to be relevant? Why aren't you just relevant as you are? You take all these things into the world, right?
Right.
You absorb all, you enjoy absorbing these things. So why is it that you're not relevant, but you still think you need to have some category or some perception that someone sitting across from you is like, this guy knows what he's talking about, he's relevant? Why, though?
I think it perceives from my... because it's a computer programming. So now
it
we know
is.
that.
Yeah.
That was our last episode. You need to listen to that. So I had been thinking about this, the computer programming of the hardcore religion that I was in when I was younger and grew up in, that, you have an angry God that sits on a throne that's looking at you, condemning you. You're going to hell. And if you don't accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're going to go to hell where there's a worm that's going to eat you.
That's hot.
And it's going to be super hot and you're going to be tormented literally for ever and ever and ever. And if you accept Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, then you get to go to heaven where there's gold streets and mansions and you live a life of bliss. So in turn, this not always feeling good enough.
Wow. Do you think that came from that point?
Yeah, I think.
Do you think it's just over time
to be relevant because I want to be good enough for everyone that I talk to?
Wow.
And the only way for me to be relevant is me to perceive. I want them to think that I'm cool, and I think that's where it comes from. It's that programming. And plus, there's an ego thing about that. If somebody says, "Oh, you look younger," or "Oh, you're in great shape for your age," or you have tattoos, or whatever it may be.
Sure.
I want to identify in that aspect. So I think honestly, that's probably the number one attachment issue I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to psychoanalyze it. You know what I mean? All I got to say is one, thanks for sharing that.
Right.
And I just hope that when we look at it, you're aware of it.
Yes.
Right. And like we've said before, and this was in last week's podcast, it's very difficult to step beyond that programming.
So now I recognize the programming.
Yeah, you've recognized programming.
So the next step, let's use me as an example here. I love this.
Okay.
So the next step is when I approach somebody and they view me as being relevant and they think I'm cool, now I have a choice.
Yeah. Can I humble myself and understand that I'm just am who I am, right? Or do I sit here and I start with this expectation of this conversation, and then the relationship I have with this person will continue to be on that prior thought or understanding that this is who I am. This is how I should be defined.
Or maybe I'm looking at it as, now that you think I'm cool and relevant, now I'm over you.
Ooh.
So now I can judge you.
So now you've made them the lesser.
Yes, because of my insecurity and fear of never being good enough.
Wild. So because you've not filled that hole within yourself.
Right.
You're now creating another hole in a relationship. You've now left that person, making them the other, right? So now you've just created a reflection internally of what was inside of you and applied it to the outside world.
Because everything I view can't be all as one, everything equal. There has to be layers to everything.
But there doesn't.
No, there doesn't. And I'm saying that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Something that I've been self-aware and I have really been working on, and truly selflessly loving people as they enter into my life and seeing that we're equal.
Yeah.
But I feel like that is a weakness that I have. That
it's not a weakness.
Well, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, that's just
not a weakness.
Because now you're judging that part of you. It is just a part of you, okay? Right. Look at it with non-judgment. Accept it for what it is. Understand its programming, as De Mello puts it, and then leave that distortion behind. work beyond that energy, okay? Overcome that energy with a higher form of energy, that form of love, right? That deeper form of understanding. And that'll come from a deeper form of understanding yourself and the other on the outside.
Yeah, I love that. So let's get into your attachment.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to ask me? What am I attached to?
Yes.
Yeah, like
besides blueberries and oat milk.
Oh my God, blueberries and oat milk. Oh my God. I'm totally attached to that. I'm actually, and this I know for a fact is a function of my upbringing, okay? I am attached to comparison. So, wants first needs. Cost first cost, right? Cost first opportunity. So when and this is a problem, and sometimes this will show up in the relationship, right? Is if someone asks me about something, well, it's like, well, if you want that, you can't have that without doing this, right? Have you considered this other option, right? Or beyond that, I look at the world, instead of just taking it for the beauty in the moment and enjoying it for what it is, I look at the world sometimes as in, holy shit, I got, going out to eat, I got to pay the money for this, I got to go over here, I got to spend money, I got food at the house, why should I go out and eat, right? That's not necessary. And it strips me away from the moment, it strips me away from living in the now. And this is a function of my upbringing, right? This comparative analysis of everything that happens. I grew up, moderately wealthy, and then extremely poor, like nothing, like so damn poor, like it was just ridiculous. Like I don't know how shit was even functioning, frankly.
Right.
All right. And then I go from cleaning bathrooms to all these other things, and there was a little bit of frugality to it, right? And my perspective of the world and how I should appreciate material objects, right? And all these other things that came into place. So this comparative analysis of how I viewed the world. Well, I can have this, or I can have this. And if I choose to do this, why am I doing it when I already have all these things here? And so then I start looking at the future value of everything. So it puts me out of place with the moment that happens right now. And my attachment, that issue is not being able to live in that moment because I comparatively analyze everything, every event, every object, absolutely everything I do. And I recognize that I do it. And it's very difficult for me to stop for a moment and be like, okay, don't be like this. And Amanda's like, you gotta fucking cut it out, right? Because what you're doing, she's like, it's not cool. You're being hypocritical to what you say, right? And you need to recognize what you're doing. And I don't do it to be like demeaning or take away from the value of what is happening or what people want to do, but it strips the emotion out of a moment.
Yes, exactly.
It kills the joy in the moment. And I know that so hard, so deep down inside of me. And that's one thing I'm just working so hard to move past, right? To overcome it with a better energy, to live in that now moment. And it's very difficult to live in that now moment all the time. But my attachment to that comparative analysis, man, yikes. Like thinking about it right now, like I know it's not good, right? And all those beautiful moments and if I go back, if I start looking at my whole life, right? Think about all the moments I wasted comparatively and just analyzing things, saying one or the other, can't have this. Why would I do this if I have that? It has destroyed so many beautiful events, and I couldn't really appreciate them in that moment. Fuck, that's my attachment.
Right. But I mean, you have to look at it and say it was the programming from what happened that was horrific to your family.
It was this outside world,
right? This external thing.
It was not. I was not focusing my own internal joy in that moment. We're just appreciating things for what they are. And now, like the last episode I talked about, I don't buy that much clothing. People give it to me, right?
Right.
And I found that I just don't need those things anymore. And it's been easier for me to leave that material outside world, right? And then just focus on who I am, because it pulls me away from that comparative analysis.
Oh, right.
Do you see how that...
So like living more of a minimalistic lifestyle.
Yes.
Pulls you away from, because if you had things all around you, then it's just comparing constantly. And it wears me down, right? And I found that, and there's better fruits that come from having that minimalistic lifestyle for me, right? I understand the programming, and now I'm attacking it with another programming that has a higher truth to it. I like that.
And the minimalist thing expands beyond just the comparative analysis. It matches with spiritually how I view the world and everything else. So I found something that worked, but it's taken a lot of work to get to that point. And I can sense the programming when it comes up.
Right.
And I gotta like like stop myself. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yikes, like it's okay. Everything's all right. The world's not going to burn, you know? And so
you're not going to lose it all in 2 seconds.
No, you're not going to lose it all in 2 seconds. And that's folks, that is my attachment.
It's just you trying to prevent loss.
Yeah. And again, it's that control thing, right? So it's just from, just that whole programming over time. I just had to come to realize I had no...
But it seems like you don't do it with like your dogs or Amanda or people. You just do it with things.
Just things.
Like inanimate objects.
Inanimate objects.
Like materialistic things.
Has nothing to do with people or dogs or other stuff. It's just inanimate objects.
Right, because you're great with...
Everything else is fine.
Yeah.
It's inanimate objects. And frankly, I don't give a shit about inanimate objects. But when it comes down to me dealing with them...
But they just trigger.
They trigger. Like I'm looking at these 2 damn stools in here right now, and I'm like, and my brain is like thinking like, wow, I got 2 in here. I'm sitting in this chair. Is this going to work? I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the brain just going. It's that programming that just runs automatically. But thank you for the saying that I don't do it with people and dogs and all that other stuff. I appreciate that.
No, I noticed that in you. You're really good that way. It's mainly like finances.
Yeah,
in materialistic things. Paper with dead presidents on it.
And it's funny, I went to school and I studied finance.
Yeah,
it's like I'm trying to understand that energy even further, right? And you can even see, that I don't know, fucking like frugality, I don't know what the hell it is, but that energy has carried on.
Positive, like it is. There's a negative and positive to everything.
To everything, right?
There's a positive about that too. I mean, people get these tech companies and then they feel like they need to have a Porsche right away.
No.
$5,000 bottles of champagne.
I'm cool with the parties. Subaru.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, where do you find that?
That's something I've learned too.
That balance. You know what? Can we tell about that story, that house you had on the west side?
Yes.
Can we talk about that transition just a little bit?
Yeah, I wanted something smaller. So I feel like the 4,000 square foot house, just because it was a lot cheaper here than Seattle, I was in a house I didn't want to be in, a relationship that I didn't want to be in. Because the house was so big and new and amazing, and it's like I said, people are like 4,000 square foot, but if you're in Albuquerque, it's very, very inexpensive.
Yes, normal.
Any type of real estate. And then I'm driving 40 minutes for a commute. And I didn't have higher density living podcast for me to learn in.
And what did you have to put in that house? You couldn't just have a big house. You 4,000 square feet.
I had to buy all this tons of furniture at this place, and then I had a couch in my bedroom because the bedroom was so big, and 2 big dressers and a king size bed and a walk-in closet and, an extra bathroom. There was 1, 2, 3, 3.5 bathrooms and 5 bedrooms and, and at the end of the day, I would work, go to the bar, come home, smoke a cigar out in there, use the bathroom, sleep.
Yeah.
And then 90% of the house I didn't even use.
Totally unused.
Unused, yeah. And then from there, like I said, I was in a relationship that I shouldn't have got into in the first place. And I was unhappy. Where you would look at it and think that there was everything that a person would want.
Right. And you attach yourself to all those things.
Yes. And I attached
Big time.
Big time, yeah. Well, it was my identity.
Mm-hmm.
That was who I was. So I have a great job. I'm doing great things. I have a nice Denali, brand new Denali Yukon.
What a douche.
I know, yeah.
What a hardo.
I talked my girlfriend at the time to buy.
Yeah.
She probably didn't want that huge thing.
No.
But I always wanted one.
Yeah.
So it was $73,000. And then
you got everything you thought you always wanted.
And now it's the cool part. I got everything that I always thought I ever wanted. And I had to go through the whole processes and all and realize, and then everything got taken away.
How'd you feel? Tell me about how you felt.
When everything was taken away, I actually felt relief, like in a good way. And then, we ended up meeting, and this podcast ended up happening because we both decided to go to someplace that was smaller.
Yeah.
And so we both live in something that's nice, but it's a lot smaller. And I have 1 couch and 1 bed and 2 bedrooms and a small kitchen.
That's all you need.
And I'm 110%. And I'm single for now in my life. And I'm 100% happier.
You've removed all the attachments, and then you found out who you really were.
Yes, exactly.
And you find out more of who you are every single day.
Yes, and I think when we come to the point of attachments, we get into this word, and he talks about it going back to the book of love. And I want us to, the remainder of our half hour, I want us to get into this love. But he says something that we notice when we get rid of attachment. He says the person, let's say relationships. He says the person automatically ceases to be special and important to you. And he or she becomes important the way a sunset or a symphony is lovely in itself.
Right.
The way a tree is special in itself, and not for the fruit or the shade that it can offer you. The tree is just being a tree.
Yeah, it's not about what it's.
Tree episode.
It's not about what it's doing for you. It's just being itself. It has nothing to do with you.
And he says, your beloved will then belong not to you, but to everyone or to no one, like the sunrise and the tree. Test it by saying these words again. I leave you free to be yourself.
Yeah.
Say that to your wife, to your son, to whatever you hold an attachment to.
Yeah.
I leave you free to be yourself. That's amazing words.
It's awesome. I think Amanda and I share that in our relationship.
Right.
Do whatever the hell you want.
Right.
The trust goes through the roof, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no, you have to be this or do a certain way. You can only go out and do an activity if I'm there with you. Go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go be you. I don't own you or control you. We're together in a relationship, and the relationship is not a function of attachment or ownership. It's us together living together in tandem, sharing. Not owning each other, but sharing. Understanding the joy within ourselves and how our own internal joy comes together to create a joy between both.
And the definition that he uses of love, he makes a statement about it. And you underline this. This is your book.
Thank you.
You underline this. Love can only exist in freedom.
Only. And freedom comes through that understanding, right? Because when you truly appreciate your own free will, you can understand someone else's free will. And that freedom, it's like being in a relationship, but you've clipped the wings of both birds, right? They can't be who they truly are. You don't want to have anyone clip your wings, right? And don't clip the wings of someone that you love the most. You need to let them be free, let them be the person they truly are at their absolute core. Let them find themselves, let them learn, let them integrate their emotions back into that relationship that you both share, right?
Yeah, and he says to be in the state called love. You underline this too. You made my job easier.
No problem.
To be in the state called love, you must be sensitive to the uniqueness and beauty of every single thing and person around you.
Yeah. I can waste so much damn time just standing in one spot. Why? Because that tree blows my mind. The way the rocks fall blow my mind. How this plant can grow through the cracks of this rock are amazing, right? How this person has grown over their entire life to look this way, talk and think and just breathe that they do, the air that they get from this tree that recycles it. All this stuff is amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And it helps me live in the now is to understand the freedom and the wonderful nuances of everything that gives it its physical identity, but also understanding the interconnectedness of all of it. Right?
And he says, and this is you teed him up.
Yeah.
He said, love excludes no one at all. It embraces the whole of life. And he goes back to the symphony again, understanding how beautiful that music is.
Yeah.
It listens to the symphony as a whole, not just one or the other of the musical instruments.
Yeah, you don't go to the symphony and be like, I'm just going to listen to the drum line, or I'm going to listen to the clarinets, right? Or the trumpets, the trombones, or just the violins, or the flutes, or I don't even know. I can't even think of any more things, right? You don't go there. What you do is you feel the symphony. It's all those sounds coming together that create that beauty in that orchestrated piece, right? Nature is an orchestration. It's a chaotic orchestration that comes together that finds this equilibrium within itself. So if you can see that beauty of how those things flow, the musical notes of nature, you're living in that moment. You're truly appreciating it. You're loving the world for what it is. Not for the specific things in it, right? Because
those attachments,
those small judgments, those distortions of how you perceive reality.
And he says, like, when you're in your attachments and you're not loving, he says this, you will inevitably look for what fosters or threatens them and turn a blind eye to the rest.
Yeah.
How can you love when you're just looking at that person, saying I love you, in a text, but then turn around and you're just looking constantly for when that attachment or the threat of that attachment begins to happen.
Yeah, and then you can't really truly love in that moment, right? You can't really appreciate the beauty of that relationship because you're worried about what's going to happen next. Is this going to disappear? All these fears, and what was your father's acronym for fear? False.
Evidence appearing real.
Yeah, false evidence appearing real.
Right.
And so then you live in this state of fear, right? Of all these things that could possibly happen, but they're all hypothetical. None of that shit's happening. Just worry about right now.
And he says, he uses this word, and this is ruthless, but I love it. He says, the minute that your spirit becomes unclogged, then you will begin to perceive things as they really are and interact with reality. And you will be entranced by the harmonies of the universe. Then you will understand what God is, for you will at least know what love is.
Right. Because love is that freedom of understanding. And when you free your own spirit, you can move into that harmony. And where do you find harmony? You find them in orchestras. You move into that symphony. You understand that the universe is but just this great symphony of things that come together, right? This beautiful rose-colored world with all these beautiful scents, sounds, sights, what you hear, all these different things find this equilibrium of beauty that are here that just grace you out of non-judgment, and they're just being themselves. And when you don't attach to it, you can understand and appreciate the nuances of that universe and what it is. And that'll apply to absolutely everything else in the rest of your life.
And he gets into, once again, bullet points. You know, we all love 1 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So corporate.
He gets into understanding attachment, love, attachment. He says the first truth: you must choose between your attachment and happiness. You cannot have both.
No, because one defeats the other. The energy of an attachment and the energy of happiness do not coincide. Attachments bring pleasure. Pleasure is brief. Happiness is eternal. Okay? So if you want to have both, you're just canceling out the energy of both of those things. You will never be able to find that happiness. You'll never be able to find that pleasure, right? So choose what you really want. Do you want the attachment and the short-term gain? Or do you want the thing that is absolutely eternal, and that is that happiness that can be applied to everything you do in your life rather than just one thing?
Second truth: where did your attachment come from?
Right. And this is what you and I focused on. So when we focus on our own attachments, we have to drive back. So once you become self-aware in it, you got to go down to the root. That's what we do at HDL, right? We ask that people on their journeys continue to ask why. What causes me to think and feel this way? And then when you find out that higher truth, it always comes back to one thing, right? Mm-hmm. That all is one. All at the absolute core every single time.
It's the infinite truth.
It's the infinite truth. It's the highest truth, right? It's that freedom. That is the highest love that you can see. So go back to it. What caused that attachment?
Third truth: if you wish to be fully alive, you must develop a sense of perspective. Now listen to this. This is so good, and I want you to talk on this. Life is infinitely greater than this trifle your heart is attached to, and which you have given the power to so upset you.
That's exactly right. Your perspective of how you viewed the world, you've relinquished your power. You don't have that internal happiness. You're letting these other things define the happiness for you, right? So you are giving away the pseudo power to these objects, to these people, to these politicians, to these businesses, to your manager, right? To all these other material things. And then when they do something wrong, your world cripples, it falls, it crumbles, right? Because there's nothing you can really truly hold on to. There's no real truth. There's nothing eternal there for that defined who you really were. So if you can't look at this final truth and understand that you've given the power to all these things, you've relinquished your free will out of your own choice. You had the free will to relinquish your free will. Man, is that insane, right? But in that hypocritical moment of you giving away that power, you're not respecting who you truly are as an eternal being. A being of such high spirit, such immense divinity and love and light that you are, your interconnectedness to this universe, you've given that away. You said the false reality is the thing that defines who you are, right? That's what has the real control. When really, you're not in control of any of those things. The only thing you're in control of is yourself. And that's what you need to focus on.
And he talks about the symphony again, and I have an analogy that I want to put into this, but he says, the ears to hear a symphony, the people that actually do that are very, very rare. Indeed, it is the human being who hears the music. And I was thinking, like for myself, I could sit there, watch the symphony, and I can look. Are those, what is the name of that violin? Oh, that girl's hot. Oh, this guy has, a man bun.
Classic Jason.
Oh, yeah. This guy's shoes are unpolished. Oh,
Yeah.
This tuxedo's wrinkled. The floor stage is a nice mahogany wood. The curtains, I wonder how thick they are. Are they red velvet? Is that, the lighting? Oh, I'm sitting to the right side of the symphony, so I wish I was sitting in the center.
No, exactly.
And so I'm not even listening to music.
No.
I'm sitting there the whole time.
This is so funny. This is synchronistic, right? You are hearing the music, right? But you're not listening to it. When I was coming down from the mountain today, I was like, a big difference in my life is not only just looking at things, but seeing things. And there's a big defining difference between that, right? Because seeing is in the moment. Hearing is in the moment, right? It's because there's intention backed behind it. But the listening, right? The looking, those things don't have the intention.
No.
That's just blindly moving about your day. It's just, oh, that's cool. That's what it is. The stage is mahogany. Great, that guy's got a man bun, right? But it lacks the single point of focus, the appreciation in that very moment. Does that make sense?
No, that makes 100% sense. And it goes right into, once again, you tee the book up every time. Where he talks about you may have a preference for the drum or the violin or a piano. And he says there's no harm in that.
Mm-mm.
A preference does not damage your capacity to hear and enjoy the other instruments. But he says this, but the moment your preference turns into an attachment, it hardens you to the other sounds. You suddenly undervalue them.
Think about racism.
Perfect example.
Okay, so I have a preference. This is example. I'll date anybody. Doesn't matter, right? As long as
not now. I mean,
yeah, not now. But
oh my god,
I'm saying from
she doesn't listen to the podcast, Alex.
She's like, Alex, I don't listen to it.
He's already starting to talk about dating.
She's like, Alex, I don't listen to it because you talk about it when you come home all the goddamn time.
And how many more brothers do you have?
Yeah, I know exactly. So, yeah,
you have like a hotter, younger one.
Yeah, a hotter, younger one that I can go with because you're just obnoxious. Holy crap! What was I talking about? I'm so lost now. You got me so funny. You got me so lost.
I stumped you on that one.
What were we talking about?
Dating preference, racism.
Oh, racism, right? So that attachment. So okay, so say you had a preference towards white people.
Right.
Okay, let's keep an easy example.
Mm-hmm.
The second you begin to harden that preference and make it an attachment, everyone else becomes the lesser, right? Nah, I can't. I could never see myself with that person because of their skin color. So you can't appreciate that person for who they are because you're already putting them in a box. You're defining them in some sort of world that you think is, right? Which is truly a false reality. And then that's where the racism comes in because you've left, this is beyond the preference. This now becomes attachment. Now I only want to hang out with this type of people, right? Because this is who I associate with. I only want to date this type of people because I feel like this is right for me. But you can never look at the beauty and all the other intricacies of all these other different variants of people and their genetic backgrounds and where they come from. That's all gone. That'll never be a possibility because you made an attachment out of the thing that had become that preference. And I think racism is just a simple example of that.
I think that's a perfect example. And like you said, preferences are fine. Maybe you find red hair Irish girls to be the hottest in the world.
Sure.
But the minute that you say there is no other woman that's equal to that, it's the minute that you begin to have a prejudice of limiting, and then you become attached to that.
And you, oh man,
that's the lesser than.
Do you cut off all your possibilities to everything else? So when the world was infinitely possible, you got rid of those infinite possibilities. You've now completely limited yourself to all the experience that you could possibly learn from while you're here for this brief amount of time.
And I like how when he talks about, this is a great analogy he uses, when he talks about that when you're just so caught up in all these attachments, the fear, the guilt, the worry, all that. He says, think of it of a flabby person covered with layers of fat. That is what your mind can become, flabby, covered with layers of fat till it becomes too dull and lazy to think, to observe, to explore, to discover. It loses its alertness, its aliveness, its flexibility, and it goes to sleep.
And that's what it does. Because you went from, you were looking and listening, but you were never seeing and hearing. That astuteness, that single point of focus is never there. That's why there's so much chaos in all of our brains, right? It's because all this stuff's coming in and we're just, encumbered by all of these different things and it's just all that fat's there. You can't You can't have that one point of focus to be like, okay, I'm going to work out. I'm going to do this one thing to get away from that fat. But instead, all these other things are coming in, right? Like all this food, all this caloric intake is too much.
Yeah, or it's almost funny. It's like taking the dating preference. So instead of just being free and moving to Ireland,
and
then you can date as many as you want.
Yeah.
Instead, you're going to live in Atlanta and just complain
all day long.
Be angry because there's no redheaded Irish women that live in Atlanta. I mean, there probably is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's one listening and she'll be like, "Hey."
But if you check the socio-demographics of the area, get the hell out of there because the odds are not in your favor.
Right.
You know?
Yes, exactly. And he goes into these layers, these fat layers.
Visceral.
I love this.
Collagen.
He says, let's examine the layers one at a time.
Oh, just lifting them up. Lifting them up.
He says, the first layer is your beliefs. He says, you can experience life as a communist, a capitalist, a Muslim, or a Jew. But what are you experiencing with all those, Alex?
You're only experiencing that limitation of what it means to live life that way as a communist,
right? As
a capitalist, as a person of the Jewish faith, right?
What does your reality become then?
It becomes that reality, that social group, that structure, right? That perception of design for how people operate in that area.
So the first fat layer is your beliefs. Second layer is your ideas. If you hold on to an idea the book says about someone, then you no longer love that person, but your idea of that person. Oh my goodness.
I don't even... Can we read that again for the crowd?
Oh my goodness.
You got to read that again for the crowd, dude.
I was married for 20 years. If I would have known this one part.
Yeah, would have changed your life.
Either I wouldn't have got married to the person or I would still...
You would still be married and it'd be a totally different relationship. Yes. Read that one more time.
Second layer, your ideas. If you hold on to an idea about someone, then you no longer love that person, but your idea of that person. You see him or her do or say something or behave in a certain kind of way, and you slap a label on, she is silly, or he is dull, or he is cruel, or she is very sweet. So now you have a layer of fat between you and this person, because when you're next, meet him or her, you experience them in terms of that idea of yours, even though they have changed. Observe how you have done this with almost everyone you know.
Everybody you know. Yeah. No, but you do, though, right? So I put that filter, right? I put the glasses on the world and say that's how that person is. So every time I'm around that person, that's the very first thing that's going to trigger in my mind to think that's the relationship between me and them. Are they relevant? Jason's a relevant person.
I'm cool.
So what happens when you're not relevant? Do I just say, fuck it, I'm not hanging out with this guy anymore?
Yeah, and then that would be my biggest fear.
And then
then I got to try to turn around and try to make myself appear relevant to you.
But dude, that's just you and me in a hypothetical situation. People do this all day long. Every relationship, everything that happens with them, it's the most insane game ever.
It's a game.
And it's not real.
It has nothing to do with reality.
And you live in it like it's real. It's like you're in this damn Monopoly world.
You say you love someone.
Yeah, and you don't know. You love the idea of what you think they are. Not who they truly are.
That's why we've just grown apart. Or, they weren't, I was putting more into a relationship.
You grew apart from your idea of who you thought they were. Because if you truly knew the person ahead of time, you would have been in the right relationship.
And gave them the freedom to be them.
Yes.
And not tell them. See, that's something I've done in relationships where I will, in a passive aggressive way, tell them everything that I think a woman should be.
That's great.
Isn't that awesome?
That's fantastic.
So now we just put out like a whole list of structure and substructure. And since I'm the judge, then that shit could change
You're
at
judge,
any moment.
Jury, and executioner.
Yes, and it could change at any moment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm more spiritually enlightened, so this person should be this way too. They can't understand what I'm thinking or what I'm saying. Oh, okay, well, here's here, and here.
Yeah.
It's all this idea of. But then you can leave the relationship.
Yeah.
Because you're feeling good.
I'm king of the world.
Yeah.
I'm better than everyone else.
Yeah, and I left the relationship. Why? Because I didn't love. I left the relationship. Why? Because they didn't fit my crazy ideas that I had.
Of perfection.
Yes, no one could ever live up to.
Yeah, no one could ever live up to. And so then if they screw that, oh yeah.
It's extremely cruel.
Oh my God, it makes my head spin just thinking about it. And I hope it makes other people's heads spin. I hope people start to realize this, our HCL listeners, the truth in this, right? Mm-hmm. You can't hide from it. There's no hiding. I'm tapping on the mic. Okay, we know you're out there, and I know. Pretend I'm tapping on your noggin. Okay, you do all these things. Don't say you don't. We've all been through it.
Yes, we all.
We're all on the same journey here.
All is one here.
Yeah, all is one.
Third layer. That was just the two.
So much visceral fat. This is like organ fat right now.
Yeah. Third layer, habits. A habit is essential to human living. How would we ever walk or speak or drive a car unless we relied on habit? The habits must be limited to things mechanical, not to love or to sight. Who wants to be loved from habit? Have you ever sat on a seashore spellbound by the majesty and the mystery of the ocean? A fisherman looks at the ocean daily and does not notice its grandeur. Why? The doling effect of a layer of fat called habit. You have formed fixed ideas of all the things you see, and when encountering them, it is not them you see in all their changing freshness, but the same dull, thick, boring idea acquired through habit.
Again, you got rid of the innocence, that childlike beauty of how you see the world.
30 years.
Who gives a shit how long you're married for? Every day's a brand new day. There's so much gorgeous things that'll happen every day in that relationship, outside of, around that relationship, right? But you desensitize yourselves because you think, well, this is just what's going to happen, right? You get this idea that the same thing that occurred today will happen tomorrow, right? And then you wallow into this. It's not even a meandering stream. It's a stream that goes straight. It's the most unnatural thing ever. It's a pipe flow of water, right? And what happens at the end? Goes out everywhere, right? It goes back to how it's supposed to be, a system of non-control. It lands wherever it wants to. And you say, I'm teeing them up, play it where it lies.
Yes.
Every day, every moment.
Every time.
Every time.
Because what is time?
Time isn't real. It's an illusion.
Fourth layer. Fear.
False.
Evidence appearing real. We talked about that. But he's like, do you see with all these fat layers? He said, do you see that we're in prison? But we've actually imprisoned ourselves.
No one put you in this prison. You did it. You have to have the accountability of self to understand that you've let too much of the ego in the material world and these perspectives of how you think you can control things squander your human spirit. You've locked up all this beautiful, like, love light energy that sits inside of you in this dark cage, and you don't want to let it go. It's like that happiness with the rusty key in the belly button we talked about.
Yep.
You lock that up too.
And we're getting into that.
You just lock them all up, right?
And that's what he talks about. He says, you think it's darkness and it's impossible to get out of this self-inflicted cell that you put yourself in, this prison. But he says, what can you do to break out? Here we go again. 4 things. Number 1, Alex, I'll let you talk about those ones. First, realize that you are surrounded by prison walls, that your mind has gone to sleep. It does not even occur to most people to see this, so they live and die as prison inmates.
Dull.
Come to my prison, baby.
Yeah.
And let's live in my prison. Oh, you have your prison too?
Wait a minute.
We'll go back and forth into each cell.
We got a super prison now. You know what I mean? We're both imprisoned. We look free as we're walking around, but man, our minds are shackled. Our spirits are tormented. And that's where you choose to die. That's when you're on your deathbed. You're like, what do I do with my life? Nothing.
And he says, here's the illusion. A few become reformers. So they're going to fight for better living conditions in the prison. Better lighting, better ventilation.
You're in the prison. Remember we talked about, it was last week.
So good, bro.
Last week's episode, we were talking about like people like hating Trump and like impeachment and like putting them as the other.
Right.
You're trying to fix the world, but you're using the same bad energy, the same bad prison, and you're just trying to clean it up rather than move yourself outside of the prison.
And he says this is where you become a revolutionary.
Yeah.
And it's time to break down the prison walls.
You need like a sledgehammer,
break down that wall.
jackhammer, dynamite.
Wasn't it East and West Germany?
Yeah.
Where they broke the wall down?
Yeah, they burned the wall. Turn on that wall, Mr. Gorbachev.
Second. Here's the second step to get out of the prison. Contemplate the walls. Spend hours just observing your ideas, your habits, your attachment, your fears without any judgment and condemnation. Look at them and they will crumble.
Right. Because you realize that they're all a false reality. That the only person that built them is you. So you're the engineer that knows how to take them down. No one else. No psychiatrist. No book. No other person's going to tell you to take them down. You're the one that put those walls up. You're the mason. So unmasonize it.
Yes.
I don't even know if that's a word. Unmasonize it.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good one. That'll be in our glossary.
Be your own Gorbachev. Yeah. Okay? Rip that wall down.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you study that, it's crazy. I mean, he went through... I mean, he was challenged by our president at the time. That was probably our last president that had, like, true balls, but whether you agree politically or not with him. I mean, he was. I like what he did to the. I went to the Reagan Library in California.
Yeah.
It was interesting with the union on the the flight guys, the guys that control all the flights, air traffic control.
Air traffic control.
And he's like, so. But we put, and there's a good, whether you agree politically or not with Reagan, it doesn't matter. But it's like at the end of the day, you look, there I go. At the end
I knew. I didn't have to say it. You could just feel it. You could feel it.
I went 2 weeks.
At the end of the day.
When you look at it, though, he came to the point to say, it's an illusion, guys. You guys, what are you guys fighting for?
Yeah.
Let's sit here and look at it and see where we're at. And if we can't sit across the table from each other and have a conversation, then, okay, here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Here's where the government's at. Here's where you're at. We can't sit. Okay.
No middle ground? Fine.
Yeah. And there are going to be people, and this is why I love this one. He says the fourth and most important step is to sit down quietly and observe how your mind functions. Oh, skip the third step. Third step is spend some time observing the things and people around you. But really look at them for the very first time.
Remember I said,
look at the leaf.
Don't look, see the leaf for what it is.
Right.
For the first time. First time is innocence. Mm-hmm. That's non-judgment. That's the highest form of love. That's, if you're going to identify with anything, identify with love. Because identifying with love is not identifying with anything out there, right? It's just funny. All paradoxes are solved within the unity of the universe. We create these paradoxes, these walls, right? These ideas, these distortions. But when you see the unity and that all is one, all your paradoxes are solved. Nothing is ever in any confusion.
Right.
It's just equilibrium all the time, right? There's nothing to get upset about. That's where that bliss is.
And he gets into and this will really mess people up, and this messed me up.
My fucking brain feels like it's exploding right now.
Dude, I've had so many hammers popped up.
Holy wow.
He uses, okay, I'll try not to get in my preacher voice. Matthew 6:3.
Yeah, take it easy.
When you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Is like giving the money and then thinking like, oh, I'm giving to the church. And he talks about charity, happiness, holiness. And he says the moment you will cease to be happy is when you think that you're happy. And I love this one. He says, when the moment that you're aware of your holiness, then it goes sour and you become self-righteous.
Right.
I'm so religious. Look at these people over here.
I'm a guru. I can move stuff with my mind. I can all, and that's like, no, you've ruined it. Remember I said I was walking around Amanda last week's episode and she's like, what are you smiling for? And then wait a minute. And I stopped smiling. Because now I've realized, why am I happy? You know what I mean? Now I begin to question that one thing that I was just being in a natural state of. You know what I mean? She didn't do anything wrong, but it's a perfect parallel to what is being said here.
And he says that there's something that you must understand. 2 sources for change.
Ooh, I like the word source.
Yes. One is the cunningness of your ego that pushes you into making efforts to become something other than you're meant to be.
It's a tricky, pushy thing. Your ego drives you to do things that really aren't you.
Yeah, it'll make you be like myself, extremely prideful and be in a religion and think that the basis off of that religion makes you superior to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is. Whether you're Catholic, Jew, Muslim.
Doesn't matter, man. They've been doing it for all of time. Yes, it's happened.
Exactly. And then the other is the wisdom of nature. Thanks to this wisdom, you become aware, you understand it. That is all you do. Leaving the change, the speed, the time, manner, the time to change, to reality and to nature.
Just let it move at the pace it wants to move at. Do not define nature, because if you try and define it, you're trying to define yourself, and you're lying to yourself.
And you talked about this earlier, and he says this in the next page. Your ego is a great technician. It cannot be creative. And then he says nature is not a technician. Nature is creative.
Nature is creative. So all you're doing is just fighting nature the whole time. It's always like trying to fight the tsunami or the hurricane. You're going to lose every single time.
Look how many times we've tried to improve nature as mankind. What has happened?
God. Never works. Dams, they become crippled,
yes.
Right? How many there's so many examples you could do with us trying to control nature. Never works out in our favor.
No.
Shouldn't have built that bridge there. Shouldn't have put that nuclear power plant there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, every time.
Don't try and control the weather with your DARPA thing or whatever the hell it is that you have out here, out in New Mexico. Don't try and control nature. Just let it be what it is. Because then you're imposing your idea on how you think the universe should be when you're the one that has the universe inside of you, right? It's the thing that created you.
And I love when he gets into, I've been saying this, I guess this is a podcast of love, but love is to be found only in fearlessness and freedom. And then he says, think of something that you absolutely love to do. He says, whether you're praised with it or not, whether you are loved or rewarded for it or not, whether people know about it and are grateful to you for it or not, count in your life, he says, how many things that you truly love and activities that you do that grip your soul, that you delight in, he says. And then he says, cultivate those, because that is your passport to freedom and to love.
Do you know what I cultivate with Amanda? Don't worry, everybody. This is not rated R.
Bro.
Yeah. This is not rated R. When we're together, right, in any sort of situation or scenario, we have a shared thought where we were both thinking the same damn thing and one person said it or we both say it at the same time. There was nothing more exciting that I gripped to in that moment. Because I know that we are being one at that moment, right? We're sharing that experience and we're letting the thoughts just come to us naturally and they're shared between us without even saying anything. It's the most empathic, telepathic, I don't know what the hell you want to call it, but it happens, right? And man, do I love when that moment happens.
Yes, and you know that is a moment that you share together.
Yes.
In and of that true love that you're expressing through your freedom.
Yeah. And that's what it is, right? She's free to have her thoughts, I'm free to have mine. And guess what? When we're both free to have our own thoughts, we both end up having the same thought at the same time. Isn't that just amazing?
And so, we, of course, we're at the end. And we didn't even get through. But I want to encourage people, because we're over an hour now, I want to encourage people to get this book. The Way
I
to
would.
Love.
Yeah. Go on.
We'll have it in the show notes.
I bought on ABE Books. I buy all my books used. Who cares if they're new?
Yeah, I've been doing
Makes
the same
no
thing.
difference. It's the same text every time.
Yeah. Plus, some of the older ones look cooler.
They do look way
You know,
cooler.
like hardback, and
Yeah.
even if they don't have.
And then you get like an attachment thing. People walk in your house, be like, "Wow, that's really well read," and you'd be like, "Yeah, I'm astute because I got a lot of books." You know what I mean?
And it only has, the book only has, what, 145 pages?
Dude, that's like a fart in the wind. Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah,
It's like there and it's gone.
Yeah, and it's a small book, small pages.
Yeah.
So
Small
we
book,
love-
small pages, big ideas, big impact.
Oh, dude, this is like the smallest, heaviest hammer you'll ever get hit by.
Marketing 101. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so good.
It's the lightest and heaviest hammer ever.
Well, we encourage people to share this information with others. We hope that this impacted you, and if it did, we ask that you share it. You can go to higherdensityliving.com, and then whether you use Apple for your podcast, which 70% of people do, whether you use Google Music, Spotify, it doesn't matter. If you
Deezer.
Deezer, if you're in Germany. Whatever you listen to, we encourage you to listen to the podcast. Leave a review, especially if you listen to an Apple.
That'd be kind of cool, yeah.
They rate podcasts by the reviews.
Oh, so even if you tell us you're doing a shitty job, just give us a lot of shitty
just give
reviews.
us a 5-star.
We'll be the world's worst review.
And so that helps us, and it lets us rank higher in the spirituality side of things. Not that we want to rank or that we're class, but
no. But if this journey had
information out.
If it had an impact on you, it'll have an impact on someone else. Share this journey. Share this teach, learn, teach moment, and understand that there's that unity and that all is one. So share that with them.
And we do little clips from the show that kind of little reminders for you. We put quotes out every day, multiple times a day. And so you can go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest,
everything,
YouTube. We're fixing to be on Twitch and 30 other. We're fixing. Yeah,
we're fixing.
You love when
I love when you say fixing.
And subscribe to whatever it is. We're going to be on there. Make sure that you share it with others. Why is the reason, Alex, that we want to get this information out to the world?
Why? Because, again, that whole material world is not the thing that's going to evolve. Those are things that are going to be rust, and they're going to disappear, and they're going to go away, and they're going to be in those landfills. The thing we need to focus on is ourselves, our spiritual journey, our enlightenment, raising our vibration so that we vibrate as the thing closest to light, the one thing that makes up our body, that we've encompassed our entire universe and what it's built out of. That's what we want to achieve. And that's through teach and learn and understanding the unity between all of us.
Because all is one.
Because all is one.
And we want to thank our sponsors once again, real quickly.
Turtle.co
and RigbyDigital.com.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you guys.
Look within, look within, look within, and live your life on the edge of two worlds. A reality where you find true understanding of who you are. The learning is done. Become the teacher in embodying the oneness of all. Walk the cliff's edge between the seen and the unseen realities. Become a higher density being. Please go to www.higherdensityliving.com.